Well, we've had a great opportunity to see some of the implications of religion and religious freedom for development in different cultures, and I'm sure there's much more that we need to be able to learn. I'm going to try and go quickly. Uh, there are many dimensions to the case for freedom of religion, which I'll refer to simply as well, for religious freedom or belief, which I will refer to briefly as religious freedom or for acronym. The case is anthropological, the case is in moral philosophy. What I'm going to be talking about is to focus on Forb as an important facilitator of countless other social goods, such as the facilitation of human development. And I want to just, as I talk about development, as I've sat here today, I've realized that how important it is to talk about the inclusive factor, as our economist from the last panel demonstrated. If you have the whole country, the GDP going forward, but it's all ending up in billionaires and the poor people are excluded, that's a problem. So we have to think about ways, and to the extent that freedom of religion may help point to the need to protect people from other views, that may be extremely important. This is a chart from Brian Grimm's book. Many of you are familiar with it, but it simply emphasizes the significance of freedom of religion as it correlates with many other factors. And as I think we all understand, this is it's hard to know its correlations, but there seem to be strong indications that, as we've seen in the miracle of Portuguese history this afternoon, as we've seen in Argentina, we've seen other places, there is a pattern of where there is freedom of religion or belief. You see economic flourishing, but not only economic flourishing, other kinds of flourishing as well. Now, what I want to just say very few words about is importance of religious freedom to the material foundations of society. In my full PowerPoint, I look at the significance for peace, stability, development. I think I'm just going to be able to go through the development portion only. I want to highlight a few factors that point to the significance of religion for development. During the conference, we've heard reference to many other factors that highlight this relationship. Please view my comments as just a summary and kind of supplements to some of these other notions. So basically, during much of the period since World War II, development efforts focused exclusively on secular economic factors. But over the past 2 decades, the importance of the religious factor in development has become increasingly evident. As I said last night in my short remarks at dinner, overcoming economic myopia is critical. As Amartya Sen said, development as freedom means to do more and to be more, not just to have more. I think there's an evolution of this new understanding of the role of religion in development for a number of reasons. There's a new theology of development that has emerged. There's also the institutional reality of the rise of faith-inspired development agencies. One thinks of Islamic Relief, World Vision, Caritas, ADRA, LDS Charities. There are innovations in development theory. The UNDP's annual Human Rights Development Report tends now to take into account broader factors, recognizing that they're important. James Wolfenson with the World Bank put a lot of emphasis during his term on these kinds of considerations. So religion is increasingly recognized as an important factor in development. It lies behind individual charitable acts and attitudes. Charitable activity organized and facilitated through religious institutions is playing a role. There's a profound relationship between religion and charity. Lord Sachs, the former chief rabbi of the United Kingdom, said while some misunderstand religion as a strange set of beliefs and idiosyncratic rituals, religion is better understood as making sacrifices for the sake of others through charity. Religious groups were building schools and hospitals and networks of support long before these functions were taken over by the state. Religion is a source of altruism. Religiosity, and this is again from Lord Sachs, religiosity as measured by attendance at a house of worship turns out to be a better predictor of altruism and empathy than education, age, income, gender, or race. Religious values are not automatically internalized, and this is something that's really been brought home to me by the work of Ram Kanan, who spoke with us this morning, that there's a very important role that congregations play in taking the altruism of religion and helping it to be internalized, giving motivations and institutional structure where altruism can be made real. Religious attendance, interestingly, relates to generosity. This is actually a kind of surprising statistic. A Gallup data revealed that adherents of all major world religions who attend in religious services in the past week, if you survey them, at least the survey that this was based on, have higher rates of generosity than do their co-religionists who did not attend services. Even for individuals who do not affiliate with any religious tradition, those who said they attended religious services in the past week exhibit more generous behaviors. I think I've got some graphs on this, but I'll skip them. Religious attendance relates to generosity. Statistical analysis in 145 countries showed positive relationships between religious attendance and donation in 90% of countries, to volunteering in 87% of countries, helping a stranger, someone you didn't know who needed help, 73% of countries. This is the notion that generosity is enhanced if those who did not attend did a little less. I don't want to get overly hung up about religious attendance. It's just interesting that it does have an effect, and it sort of underscores the fact that actually meeting with others, perhaps seeing their modeling factors, seeing their example, being invited to, encouraged to do things, it seems to make some social difference. This is true across all religious traditions. Translating religious charitable ideals into practice, all major religions encourage charitable activity, but charitable results are not automatic. Optimal outcomes depend in important ways on religious institutions, on educational institutions, local congregations, religious charities, and so forth. Now, all of these things are examples of areas where religion has an impact that has an economic impact and impact on the material welfare of societies. This is not to say that this is the only value or the only thing that one should look to measure, but it's interesting that it's there and it's a fortiori present in other areas. Faith-based facilities account to 30 to 50% of global health care. Religious institutions are often the most likely to reach out to the rural and otherwise marginalized populations, especially outside Europe. Religious organizations can facilitate reception, understanding, and distribution of health care that have been very significant in connection with fighting AIDS, in connection with malaria. There are other areas in which religious engagement can make a significant difference. So one thinks of addressing the orphan crisis in Africa, disaster relief, environmental projects, which we've emphasized at G20 in discussions this afternoon, housing initiatives, anti-corruption efforts. You know, this is an area that one of the problems with corruption is that the sources of corruption can almost always add bid salary structures. And you need something else to fight corruption. And you need something like ethical compass, religious beliefs, those kinds of things. Religion, of course, can play a significant factor in peace building. Not everyone in religions is trained to do peace building, particularly in armed conflicts, other kinds of settings, but religion can play a significant role, and as was brought out earlier, you need peace to have real development. Religious values contribute to hard work, stewardship of resources, honesty, general productivity. Increased honesty reduces transaction costs. You know, I've actually done a fair amount of work in economic development in the United States. You wouldn't think we would need it as much there as we need it elsewhere, but there are places. And one of the interesting realities when you're doing economic development is some of the economic tools you have to attract investment, to attract development into cities, is various kinds of financial incentives. And typically you don't have more than about enough to make more than 5% of the difference in transactions, but that amount gives tremendous leverage to attract development. Now, if you think about it, if you have corruption costs, I hate to tell my legal peers this, but excessive lawyer costs, tax evasion costs, there are a lot of these things that will quickly add up to 5%. And if you can save that 5%, if the religious factor, by enhancing integrity, not to say that all religious people have integrity, but it helps, that kind of social savings can make a tremendous difference for the ability for a society to grow and develop over time. Well, I'm looking at the clock. There are more things that I could say, but I think I should just stop so we'll have a little bit of time at the end. So let me just stop.